What can you share about the excitement for the new season?
I can tell you that there are new characters, new villains, a lot of new villains actually, who are really fun. And the actors playing them are phenomenal. We've got the twins, Max and Charlie Carver, who I think are going to be great additions to the show. I'm actually really excited about them, partially because they're such nice guys, and I love having them around.
Do they have a long long arc?
Yes, yeah. Their arc is 12 episodes for now. We sort of split the 24 into 2 sets of 12, so partially so I can maintain my sanity and think about only 12 episodes at a time. Because if I think to myself, okay, I've got episode 5 done of 24, then I go into a panic attack. 5 out of 12, much easier. But we've got Gideon Emery, Felicia Terrell, who are great actors. Gideon is amazing. He's a voice actor. He's done a number of video games, and he's done a ton of TV. And he can do extraordinary things with his voice. But he plays a great villain, so we're going to have to his character. And he surprised me, actually. He really did, with the levels he brings to his performance. So one of the difficult things about writing this type of show is you eventually have to kill people off, and then you come to like them so much you're not sure if you want to do that anymore. Sometimes it can change the story.
Are you actually introducing supernatural characters as villains, or just villains?
These are alphas, so I would definitely call them supernatural characters.
Well, Gerard was not a supernatural being initially last season. He made a great villain.
Yes, yeah. And what's funny about that is Michael Hogan and I was a huge fan of Hogan from Battlestar Galactica. He's become a good friend of mine. I'm having lunch with him tomorrow. So it's amazing to be able to be friends with an actor of that caliber and me being a huge fan of him.
Well, speaking of Gerard, how much more do we get to see him this season?
I would say that's a bit of a secret, but I will tell you this: Gerard is not dead.
Okay.
What character has changed the most based on who you hired to play him?
I would say I don't think we had any idea just how important Lydia would become. And a lot of that is due to the strength of Holland Roden's acting. She's phenomenal. And what she brings, we knew that she would be important somehow, but we didn't know the level to how much fun we would have with her. I mean, my co-executive producer, Rich, and I are constantly coming up with new ideas for her character, and to the point where I have to say, wait a minute, last episode was a very Lydia episode. We need other characters this time. We need to concentrate on other characters. But, so she was very surprising. And the other characters, it's nice to see them grow. It's nice to see them change. I mean, one of the characters that changes most from season 1 to this season is Derek. You're going to see a very new side to him. So he's sort of our Greek tragic hero, I think. One who falls because of his hubris and is brought back up because of the people around him.
Well, speaking of Derek, will we ever see him sort of grow into the alpha that he wants to be, and sort of what is his trajectory like this season? That's
an interesting question. You'll have to watch the season to find out, but I think his trajectory is becoming more of a hero. I think he's always been a little bit of an anti-hero. I mean, some of his actions have bordered on pure sociopathy in certain episodes. Blindly thinking he's doing the right thing, but pressing on ahead when it's actually Scott who tells him to wait and try to think this out. Like, he nearly killed Lydia, nearly killed Jackson, but it's been Scott there who's his sort of moral right hand to pull him back. So we're going to see him rely more on Scott as an ally this season, both Scott and Styles, and see him growing in that way. So finding his place, I think.
So you're building up the buddy camaraderie a bit more this season?
Yeah, it's nice to be able to do that too, because there's certain episodes like episode 3 this season, you see them working together, and I love those episodes where people who are formerly antagonists finally teaming up, and you see them side by side, and you see them good together. And then, of course, you have to split them up again.
Well, you're going to be throwing Lydia into that foray. She seems a little bit supernaturally touched these days.
Well, now that she's in the know, she becomes a much more important player in everything. So it's nice to be able to do that with this character. I think in a lot of shows, there becomes a certain frustration with certain characters not being in the know. So we decided very soon on which characters have to know by the end of this season, have to know by the end of that season, and have to become a bigger part of the mythology. And she's definitely one of them.
How far in advance do you plan the character arcs? I mean, did you know last season everything you're going to be doing this season?
We had ideas last season. We had, I knew what I wanted the general mythology to be, the mystery and the big bad, essentially. But we plan out most of the character arcs on the first day of the writer's room. Actually, Christian and I, my co-executive producer, we do a lot of the groundwork first, and then we sit down with other writers and plot it out. So we know where we want them to end up. As soon as we start writing. It's nice to be able to find things in the writing. You'll discover certain things, like certain relationships are clicking in the writing. When you're up to episode 7, you realize that two characters are going this way instead of this way, which you planned. I've heard stories about Vince Gilligan, the way he runs Breaking Bad. They have no idea where it's going from day one, and they just find their way, which is extraordinary for a show like that. When we were in the writer's room, we knew what the last scene of this season was going to be before a single script was written. And it's fun to know that, so we can build to it. It's harder when it's a mystery like this, where you have to plant so many clues. So I think you need to know where you're going. The middle can be sort of an amorphous mishmash. But if you know where you're going, the subconscious writer always helps you find the way.
Kind of going off of that, I know you guys are very active in social media, and I see a lot of fan reactions to things. So there was that post that you guys put up on Tumblr last week with that Styles, and then everything was blurred out.
Yes.
How do you use that sort of tease to kind of get more viewers? Or you like what's the rationale behind some of that? Is it just to kind of tease and get people excited, or is there a larger kind of method to the madness of how you tease and how you PR?
The better person to ask that question would probably be Matt McDonough, who's the one who handles all of our social media. But I work very closely with him. He asks me for teasers every week. I send him photos from the set. He's phenomenal in that way. And I think it's two things. I think it's general publicity for the show, which is always good. And I think it's because once you get these fans to keep talking about it, people finally say, all right, well, I'll watch TV. I keep hearing about it, I'll watch it. And then we hear great things, which are people have watched the whole 2 seasons in 2 days, which is so nice to hear. And they're dying for more. But I think we also have a lot of super fans, people who are just seem to be crazy about the show. And we try to give them as much as we can. We know they love content, and I love giving teasers. I mean, I myself was a fan of movies and TV. I watch all the promos. I remember when the first Star Wars was coming out, they would do an image a day on the Lucasfilm site, and I would click every single day to see what that new image was. So last season I was able to do a pick a day from the set, but it got to be very difficult. So it's partially to help feed our super fans and to keep the show growing as well. Because on a cable network, they need to hit that demo, that number, even though TV viewing is changing so rapidly. It's still a Nielsen rating-driven business.
Sort of going off of that social media aspect, I know you're very well aware of like the Steric and Skysick and all of the ships. So how does that impact the writing at all, and how do you deal with that?
I've been asked this question before, and it doesn't really impact the writing at all. It makes me certainly more conscious of it when say I write a scene with Derek and Styles together in it. But there's a certain plan you have with the story, and I think you let the writer and you follow that plan. The way I write is I have to please myself first as an audience member, as a lover of fiction. If I sit there and think, what will the fans like, and will the fans like this scene, I'll be completely stuck. So, not that I don't love to hear fan opinions and things, but it's a kind of a rule. You must please yourself first. If you write the show that you would want to watch as a fan, hopefully other people will watch it. That's always been my mantra.
What about the tortured romance with Scott and Allison? Are you going to be allowing them some rose and bloom moments, or are you going to just torture them to death this next season?
We torture people. We torture them emotionally, physically, mentally. It's good for the show.
It sounds like a great place to live. Good Lord. I just want to move there.
No, they go through a lot of issues, and a certain they're going to have to wonder if they're losing each other. I like stories like that. They were each other's first love, and do you stay with your first love, or do you have another? And do you move on? Is there a point where one character has to look at the other and say, "Am I losing you?" So we may see a scene like that this season. We may see moments where they come back together and they're good together, but then they start to drift apart again because of their differences or because they're growing in different places. I think that's all in line with good dramatic conflict, and it's interesting to see how it grows because in the first season we would say Allison and Scott have to end up together. But by the fourth season or fifth season, is that going to be necessarily true? It wasn't for Dawson's Creek. So, who knows?
Okay. Well, we're looking forward to seeing what happens with that romance.
Yes. Great.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.